everyone, this is one of my Katharine's creatures, and this is a series where we're going to talk a little bit about and touch base upon various mythological creatures, beasts, beings, and the like pulled from lore worldwide. And this is episode 106. I always like to preface by saying that I am not a linguist, so if I mispronounce anything along the way, I apologize in advance. And today I wanted to talk about a creature that might seem familiar to you, but has a little bit of a twist than the one that's a little more common. So today I wanted to talk about the Kopakonan, and this is a type of seal woman from the Faroe Islands. And so the most common seal woman's kind of entity that I know of is the Selkies from Ireland, and this is very similar, and even the main storyline and themes are very, they could almost be seen as identical, though I will warn you that this particular story I'm going to be talking about, the Kopakonan, has some gruesome parts to it. But like the Selkies, these seal women can take on human forms, and actually their origin story is a little interesting. They supposedly were originally humans that voluntarily chose their death by drowning by the ocean, and somehow they were reborn in these seals. And so one time a year, known as the 13th night, the seals are allowed to swim ashore and strip off their seal skins and then celebrate, dance, and pretty much frolic as humans for one full night before returning to the ocean for another full year. And again, this sounds very much like the Selkies from Ireland, though the particular story I'm about to tell you comes from the Faroe version of the Kopakonan. And this one goes along the way of there was a young man who lived in the village called Mikadalur, which is located on one of the northern islands of the Faroe Islands. The particular one is Kalsoy, I think. And the story goes as the young man heard about the stories and the tales of the Kopakonan and was very curious to see if they were true. So during the 13th night, he actually arrived a little early and found a place around rocks to hide down and kind of observe and see if the story had any truth or merit to it. And during that night, early on, he saw a huge number of seals swim upon shore and thereupon start taking off their seal hides and revealing practically normal looking women and other people on the shore. And so as they began to dance and celebrate and he's watching all this, he noticed a particularly attractive young Kopakonan taking off her seal hide and placing it upon a rock close to where he was laying hidden. So what does he do? He steals the seal hide. And so when dawn arrives and all the seals are redressing and returning to the water, the young woman now cannot return with the others because she no longer has the hide to do so. And when the young man steps out to show himself, no matter how much she pleaded and begged for him to let her go home, he wouldn't. And so she was forced to follow him back to his village. Whereupon, and again, like I said, very parallel to a lot of the seal wives stories of Ireland, she was forced to become his wife. And over the years that she lived with him, she did have several children. So they had a family, and every day the young fisherman was very, very smart. He kept the seal hide locked away in a chest and kept the key upon a pouch on his belt. So it was always on him until one day, years later, he was out fishing and he realized his mistake and he left the key at his home. And just in that burst of emotion, he shouts out that today is the day I'm going to lose my wife. Now, he was not alone on this vessel, so he had to explain what happened and the whole story to the others, where, feeling sympathetic for their friend, all the other fishermen pulled in their nets and paddled as fast as they could to return to the home. Of course, by then, when the young man returns, opens a house, all he can find is his children, but his wife is no longer there. And when he's hurrying to the beach, all he can see is a seal swimming off with the others. Now, switching perspectives, when the Kopakonan was able to retrieve her hide, of course, she went immediately to the shore to return home. And there waiting was a bull seal, so a big male seal, waiting in the water. And he had been waiting there all the years she's been gone because they were in love before she was forced to marry the human. And so she gets to return to the waters, to the bull seal, whom was her lover, and the world kind of passes on for, again, a number of years. And at some point, there is going to be a huge seal hunt. And there's big preparations for all the fishermen of the Faroe Islands. And so the man, the human, he of course is going to participate. And during the night before the big seal hunt, where they already have tracked down a huge pod of seals congregating in and around these caverns, these seaside caverns. So they already have the location set. But during that night, he is visited in a dream by his seal wife. And she comes and she implores him not to slay the big bull male seal that lounges near the front of the cavern, and also not to slay the 2 seal pups that are in the far back of the cavern, because she explains those pups are her children, and she describes them in detail so he would know to recognize them. Well, the next day comes, and everybody's excited about the seal hunt, and the man goes off hunting. Of course, what he does not do is listen to his old wife. So he, along with all the other men, kill all the seals they can possibly catch. And they divvy up, the goods and everything. And so, almost, I'm wondering, out of spite, the man took different parts. It said the fins of the pups and the head of the bull male seal, and brought it home to boil a soup, and cook it. And during that dinner, as he's preparing for his children, the door, they hear a big crash and a storm arises, and the Kopakonan returns to the house, this time in a form of some kind of troll, some gruesome troll, where she wails and cries and curses the whole family and household, saying that they slayed her mate and her 2 pups. And her curse pretty much is every man who was involved with the seal hunt will either die by drowning at sea or falling off the peaks of the mountains. Over the following years, that's what happened. Every man over the years of this poor village would die either by sea or climbing through the mountainous passages. And so the curse was fulfilled. Now, interestingly, in 2014, there was a statue, I can't remember the artist's name, so apologies for that, but a bronze and stainless steel statue of the Kopakonan seal woman there on that particular island, actually in the village, Mikadalur, where that tale came. So there is a beautiful sculpture, you can search for it, positioned right at some of the water breakers next to some of the ocean, the edge of the water, and it's there today. So I thought that was really neat and wanted to share the seal woman of the Faroe Islands, which again is kind of a counterpart to the Silky of Ireland. If you have any question about this or anything else, please post them in the comments below or reach out to me on any of my social media. And until next time, Skål.